Hi Stampers, welcome to Great Inspirations. My name is Kim Tolbert and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I have 3 cards to share. And these 3 cards almost did not happen because were created using the Year to Celebrate stamp set from Stampin' Up's current mini catalog. And I saw the stamp set, I thought, yeah, but I have a New Year's set. I think I have one that has little party horns, and yeah, I don't need that. But then I looked at it again. It's like, oh, I really like this happy birthday sentiment. Oh, I really like this, and you could stamp this and stamp this over it with a darker color, and oh, I like these designs. So, of course, I ended up getting it. And I hope to use this throughout the year because it's year to celebrate. And of course, you can use it to make New Year's cards and happy birthday, let's party. You could perhaps use that to make an invitation and then congrats. So here are the cards I made. This one is just a very simple, I just simply stamped everything on my focal panel and called it good. And then inside I haven't put anything yet, I just have the panel. But there's that one. Like I said, I just simply stamped the images. Now, as you might notice, this is one of those 2-step stamping sets because here are the horn pieces and then the mouth pieces are separate. And then if you want the confetti or whatever you care to call that coming out, that's yet another stamp. So this was just basically, like I said, stamping this image, then this one, and doing that on each of these 3 images, and then just put a little bit of confetti there. So that was super duper simple. Now for this one, I did just stamp the happy birthday and the little streamers or confetti onto the card, but I stamped these on a separate piece of cardstock and then fussy cut them. But the way that I figured out where to put the little streamers is very simple, but it sure helped and saved me a lot of frustration, and I'll show you what I did. This image is symmetrical, and honestly it wouldn't matter if it weren't, as long as this edge, the edge that you need, is symmetrical. So what I did, we're going to pretend this piece of scrap cardstock is the focal panel. I stamped my image, I flipped it over, and I arranged it the way I thought I would like it on the card. And then I took my stamp, let's get some ink here, some Daffodil Delight. I inked this up, held this in place, and stamped. Then, as you can see, when I put these on dimensionals, when I go to put it here, I can line it up perfectly. And it will be at the right angle that I want, like here. And I won't have to guess when I'm stamping. So that is how I did these. And of course, like I said, this is a birthday card, and I really, really do like that font for that greeting. But now we're going to move along to this New Year's card. And I know many of you say, I don't make New Year's cards. And I can understand that because I didn't used to. But now I do to an extent. And this is why. In 2020, of course, we were all going through the pandemic, and I had extra time on my hands, and I was missing my family because I have a very big family. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Of course, they have children, and now most of their children have children. And so I just made New Year's cards. Yes, I sent Christmas cards, But I also sent them New Year's cards because I just felt that, I really missed them and getting together with them. And 2021 was coming, and we just needed to focus on, newer and better days ahead. So I sent those. And then I got to thinking, well, you know what? Every year I know people who over the year they lose a loved one. And then they have to go through all those first. The first birthday without this person, or the first Easter or Christmas or New Year's. And that is when I began making New Year's cards to send to those people. It's just sort of a way of saying, I'm thinking of you, and here's a little extra hug, without really saying those words. They just getting the card, I think, and opening that card from someone lets the person know that you're thinking of them. So that's one reason. Another reason is, as most of you know, I have friends and family members who are Jewish. And yes, I send them Hanukkah cards. But for example, this year Hanukkah begins on December 7th. And by the time New Year's rolls around, it's been almost a month since Hanukkah began, and it ended well over 2 weeks ago. So I just like to remember them on New Year's, especially because, I don't celebrate Hanukkah. They don't celebrate Christmas, but we both celebrate the New Year. So I do enjoy sending New Year's cards to my Jewish friends and family members. Now, another reason is, as some of you may know, I also have family members who are Russian. And in Russia, the big holiday is not Christmas, but New Year's. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But, if you want to learn about that, you can do a search for Russian New Year's celebration, and you can get the history of that and the why of that. But I do send them New Year's cards because that is their big holiday. So that is some of the reasons I do make cards for New Year's. Now this one, as you can see, I've done in black and gold. And then just to add a little more interest, of course these are embossed, but just for a little more interest, I use silver embossing powder here and gold everywhere else. Then I use some rhinestones just to give it a little more glitz and bling. And I learned a lesson on this card because when I went to use the stamps, let me get a block here. Here is what I'm calling the mouthpiece, and here's the horn piece. So if you have black cardstock and then you use your embossing buddy to get ready, to emboss, and let's say you ink up this part with the Versamark, and you stamp it on there, you can just barely see it, and you may not be able to really see it at all. But then you have to put this piece on. So you ink it up. Of course, it's on the block, and you're like trying to see through the block and on the paper, and I inked it, and oh my goodness, that time I did really, really good. It's really close. But most of the time I would miss, and it was very frustrating. So what I learned to do, and I'm going to show you this on this cardstock here, was I took this piece and this piece and just lined them up on the block like this. And we'll use some basic gray so you'll be able to see it. I inked them up. We'll pretend like this is Versamark. And then I stamped, and they're even. Now, yes, there's this little gap here, but on my project that I'm going to show you, it looks really good. And my next project is kind of a bonus project, I guess you could call it, because I know many of you may not have the reasons I have to make New Year's cards. But you could still use the stamp set to make a cute little, like a New Year's treat box party favor. And see, it sets up just like that. It's just really cute. And I basically did it the way I did it here. And see, here's the difference. There's the horn, and here it is here. And I really like this one much, much better. So some of you may recognize this from a video I did a couple weeks back where I made a card that it was oriented this way, portrait, and it didn't have this box in here, and you could fold it over and mail it, and then it would, stand up on its own. And then I also showed the option of how you could make the box to fit in here and make it also like, a little treat holder. But as I said, that one was portrait oriented. This one, the card is, or this treat box is made exactly the same way as I made the card, except this box part has to be different. Because for the portrait one, you'll see it's wider or taller, or this is wider than this. So that works fine to make the little box. But for this one, not so. You need the box to slide this way. So it's taller than it is wide. So I thought I would walk you through this because I think more of you might be able to use this at New Year's than perhaps the card. However, you don't have to use this just for New Year's. You could use it for birthdays or weddings or any time that you want to have a little treat holder. But I thought also for New Year's and perhaps weddings or even birthdays, you could fill this with confetti. Now this is rather narrow. It's about an inch wide, but it does hold like the little Dove chocolates. I have some, let me grab them here. I have some of the small, like little mini Hershey candy bars, and I think there's four or five of them fit in there nicely. So there's that. I'm sure there's all kinds of candies that would fit in there, but like I said, you could put confetti in there if you would like, if you're having a party or wedding or other celebration. So let's talk about how I made this. The things you will need are the card base is basic. It's just a piece of basic black that's 5.5 by 4 1/4. Now on the card / treat box that I made a couple weeks ago, on the back I put a piece of basic white where you could put a greeting and sign your name. You could still do that on this. I chose not to, but you certainly can do that. So here is this part. And then I took some strips. These are 5.5 by 1/4 inch strips of the adhesive back glimmer paper, which is available in the online store right now. And it comes in gold and silver. And for this one I used gold. The one we're going to put together here in a minute, I used silver, and my little streamers coming out of the little horn will be gold. So there's 4 of those. And then just a piece, I've got glitter everywhere, just a piece, a scrap of basic black cardstock to make the little image here. And then for this part, you need a piece of basic black that's, let's see, which one is this? 5.5 by 5 3/4, and then along the 3/4 side, it's going to be scored at here 1.5, 2.5, 4, and 5. Now don't worry about the measurements because even though I'm telling them to you, they're also will be found on the corresponding blog post to this video, and the link to that blog post will be found in the description of the video. And now this is for the box. Boy, I do have glitter everywhere. And for this box, it's 3 7/8 by 8 1/2. And then you score it at 1/2 inch on all sides. So here, and here, and here, and here. 1 1/2 inch. So, let's go about making this. Now I have started one. Oh yes, you'll also need, of course, the gold and or silver, whichever one you care to use, or both of the embossing powder. You'll need some Versamark and an embossing buddy, or if you don't have one, you can use a dryer sheet, and of course a heat tool. So let's see what we got here. So see, I have my silver strips, and here is this piece. Now the way I did this was I knew these pieces were going to go one at the top. So I kind of put that there. And then I knew that this piece would go right here, and this would go right here. So I sort of laid those down there, and I had already done my little horn, but if I hadn't, I could have used this one, and I just placed it where I thought it needed to go, and then I inked my stamp with the Versamark, stamped, covered it with the gold embossing folder, and heat set. And it was in the perfect place, I hope, and it should be. Now on this is the Happy New Year, and this is the piece that is, I forget, 5 3/4 by 5 1/2. Here's the 5 1/2 inch side, and this small section right here, that goes at the top. The Happy New Year goes in the middle, so there's 1 section, 2 sections, 3 sections, 4 sections, 5 sections, so Happy New Year goes in the 3rd section. So you just emboss that, do all of your embossing first, and of course I did my little image there. And then, before we put our box together, we're going to put this box sleeve, because I call these like box sleeve cards or box sleeve treat boxes, because there's a sleeve that the box slides into. So we're going to fold on these score lines, and I'll get my bone folder, because we do definitely want to get a good crease on these folds. Okay. Now what you can do before we adhere this, if you have a microfiber cloth, it can help get rid of all those little bits of glitter. It can also help get rid of extra of the powder from your embossing buddy. Okay, so if you would like, you could add these strips that go right across here. And these do have adhesive on them, so that makes it super nice. I'm going to get my Take Your Pick tool and just kind of get the backing off of here. There we go. And then I check the ends to make sure there's just a little teeny bit there. It's almost so tiny you don't need to cut it off, but I think I'll give it a try here. There we go. Now we'll put the next one on. Just line it up along this fold. And I tend to try to peel the backing as I go, since this is a fairly long, narrow strip. Check it. That looks good. Okay, so now get this out, and we're going to put adhesive on this section right here. And I am using Stampin' Seal Plus. You can also use tear and tape. I just recommend that you use a strong adhesive. Oh, this is a new one. There it is. A little bit right there. Okay. Get this. Here's the bottom. We're just going to line this up right along here. Once it's lined up good, just give it a good press. And now all we have to do is put adhesive here, and it's going to go right along that seam. Fold it under, just line it up, and there we go. Now we can put this strip right along here. Go. There's that. And we can put this strip along the top. And there's that. And now I have on the back of this, I put some dimensionals and I used the black ones. Get the backs off. Just line this up with our little confetti there. And there's that. There's the silver and the gold. Now we need some of the little rhinestones. I'm going to use my scissors. I know a lot of people like to use the little putty on the take your pick tool. I use it sometimes, but I really do better with my scissors. And I don't know why. Just do. And then two more. Where did I put that one? Down low. Okay, so there is the card and sleeve portion of our little treat box. Now let's put the box together. Just set that aside. Get some of this off of here. I've made a mess. Okay, so here's this. And we do need to fold it. And this is pretty much like any other box, except because it's narrower. And then, you know, it's taller than it is wide. It's very narrow across the bottom. Our tabs, it's going to be just a little different, but not a lot. Okay, so we're still going to go at each end and cut our tabs. Okay, this is only 1 inch wide here. So this is the end of our box, but look what happens. These are like twice as wide because they're 1.5 inches, so, you know, a little wider. So what we need to do, we've cut here, so now we're going to cut these down a bit. And you just want to make sure you get enough off so that they will close. Just kind of test it. Yep, that'll work. And then you still miter just like we always do. Right there, just cut a little snippet out. Do it right here. And then we're going to do the same thing on this end. Like I said, you just want to check. Seems to be working. So do our mitering. Okay, so now all we have to do is get our adhesive on here. And again, I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal Plus. Go over the edge like I did, just turn it under. Now we'll start to assemble. Come down to this end. And there's our box. Now all we have to do is slide it in. And there you go. That's our little treat box party favor. And I don't know, I kind of like the silver and the gold one. I think that would be pretty to have both of them. Maybe a New Year's celebration. So anyway, those are just some of the projects that I created using the Year to Celebrate stamp set. Thank you so much for joining me, and as I said earlier, all of the measurements and supplies I used for these projects will be found on my corresponding blog post, and the link to that blog post will be found in the description of this video. Until next time, stamp happy!